Recruiter efficiency and productivity is more important than ever. And over the next 2 minutes, join me and Ben Carwood from SourceWhale to see 5 things that you can do to increase the productivity of your recruiters.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. I started saying happy Monday and then kind of said, hope you have a good day. And it kind of just went, happy Monday. Hope you're all having a good day. Today's session with Ben and SourceWhale is going to be uber efficient. So when we started talking about webinars and everything, we're like, let's do an hour. Then I was like, no, 30 minutes tops. Now, Ben and I have done some prep and we're going to make this the most streamlined, super efficient webinar the world has ever seen to complement today's topic. So before I introduce Ben, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly Langley and I work at Restack, and we help companies maximize all parts of their Bullhorn ecosystem as well as their wider ecosystem, which is why obviously we're speaking with Ben today. For those of you who know me will know that I like to think that I'm incredibly efficient. I'm not 100% sure always if I am, but I do my best. So I'm always open to hearing about what other people are seeing within businesses, and especially for someone like Ben. So Ben, feel free, come in and say hello and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm loving the fact that this is the first one as well. It's great. And an efficient webinar about efficiency. Well, what a way to start. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know me, Ben, I've been at SourceWhale since it started about 5 years ago. So this has literally been everything that I've talked about for the last 5 years. Everybody that knows me, I can see one in the waiting room or in the audience that's definitely seen or known me for the 5 years. Productivity, I get very passionate about. So apologies if I go on a little bit. But what do we do as a business? So SourceWhale is essentially a recruitment productivity platform. It plugs into all of your tools and it basically just automates and organizes all the stuff that a recruiter would need to do every day. So it removes all of the admin related work, things like updating the CRM and whatnot, so they can just purely focus on execution. And there's a feedback loop from the data that we collect to help them improve on a day-to-day basis as well, so they can watch back calls, they can see the data on response rates and things like that. So
I think it's really interesting. Now, when I set up the business 2.5 years ago, I had visions of recruitment owners coming to me and saying, Holly, we need you to increase our GP. We need you to give us 25 more jobs a month or whatever. That's what I'd kind of psyched myself up for. However, the reality is that's not what people ask for. Recruiters and recruitment owners are genuinely coming to us and they're saying, Holly, what can you do to help our teams be more efficient or be more productive? And then they say, we don't know what we don't know. And I agree with them entirely. And I suppose what they're saying is we want to make more money. We want more placements. We want more jobs. But we also acknowledge that the way to do that is through efficiency and productivity within the system. And that's exactly what we're going to cover today. So we've kind of got 5 questions, topics, conversation points, that we've kind of put together, and we wanted to highlight about the importance of some of this and kind of how it can be done, how you can actually make your recruiters more efficient and more productive. What I will say is we have got a Q&A. If you have any questions, then please do let us know and we will come to those. But yeah, we're going to be here for a very efficient and hopefully interesting conversation. So Ben, I'm going to hand over to you. Talk me through the first thing that you think can really move the needle for recruiters.
So it's really around how do you make sure you're reaching out to the right people at the right time with the right kind of messaging. If you think about what recruiters do, it's essentially a waterfall stack where you always start with the targeting, right? How do I build a list of individuals that I can send the appropriate message to and hopefully engage them, whether that's through email, through calls, whatever it may be. And the first thing that we often find is people will just have really broad lists. So if you can try and narrow down your list, try and find things that are common between different people in this big list that you can then subdivide that down into, and that will allow you to break down your messaging into more specific messaging focused on those small subsets of people. Really important because deliverability is something that's coming up more and more for people to make sure they're getting into people's inboxes. If you can make sure your messaging is more specific to those kinds of people, then they're going to be much more receptive to you and respond to you, which improves deliverability. You get more emails into the inbox, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The second part to that is the personalization aspect. And I think we've got ourselves into this cycle of like everyone's doing quite a lot of volume or trying to do some volume, depending on what kind of business you are. For exec search versus like blue collar, it's going to be a little bit different. But they have to do the volume to get the results, and then you can't stop doing the volume to do the more personalized stuff. So because it's going to take a while to build back up. So if you can, you need to carve out like half an hour each week just to do more personalized stuff, and that will then build up in the background. It's finding little things, little reasons for reaching out to people. So the why behind your message, not just, hey, I'm specking out candidates. Hey, I saw you hired someone like this, or great to see so and so is doing well. Are you hiring similar people? Here's someone that we came into contact with last week. Like, find the why you're reaching out, and try and do that when you're subdividing your lists as well. There are other things that are now available, and I'm going to use the word AI, and I'm sure everyone's so sick of hearing it. But there are other things that can be done to sort of certainly look through your CRM, for example. The competitive advantage right now, and it's going to become more and more of a focus, is people's CRM, the data trapped in your CRM in really poor coded ways, unstructured. AI is giving us a way to actually go and analyze that information previously that was unreadable or uncoded, and now start to map this information. And that's where you can find things like career moves or company moves, and that can then really give you more triggers to then go and identify the right people to reach out to, whether it's just a, hey, saw you moved, you hired from us 10 years ago, let's have a conversation.
It's exciting, isn't it? And I think you're right. Like, I was speaking to a client just the other day, and I said, oh, when I started in the industry, like, it was all about quantity. How many mail shots can you send out? 1,000 a week, whatever.
That's where I started.
Yeah, there we go. And like, I look back now and oh my gosh, I actually like get quite nervous and anxious, like thinking about the stuff that we used to make our recruiters do, because that's not adding any value. Like, I know that there, as you've said, like targeting this down and breaking it down is so helpful. Just as like, if you're sitting there watching this and you think, oh my God, Holly, like, we don't have budget to spend on AI, like we don't know who to target. Like, first of all, just look, my number one thing I would recommend is break it down to people who you have placed with before and haven't recently spoken to. So you can do a campaign or literally call them all of your contacts who you placed with after 2020 and haven't spoken to in the last 60 days. So you can kind of segment it by their last activity, or you can segment it by like job title or whatever you've done on the system. If your data is coded badly now, start the process of changing it, right? Because then you can do so much more with it. But it really does have it does make a difference. Now, I will never forget this. I don't think you know this. So back in my old job, I was the head of ops, and I ended up in, lo and behold, a SourceWhale BD campaign. And it was when you guys were really new. So it was what, 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps. And I thought, what's I think I ignored the first 2 messages, awkward. And then their third message was like a GIF of them holding up a whiteboard with my name written on it. And I thought, hang about, what's going on here? I like the look of this. This is great. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And then the next one was a really personalized topic about something I'd put on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, I get this now. It works. And I've never forgotten that, because it was the first time I'd received something really personal. So helpful. So yeah, definitely targeting the right people with the right message and have that personalization. I'm here for it every single day.
I literally built a whole sales career of being able to search Salesforce better than my peers. And I always remember, it was what, 10 years ago now when I first started in sales. I just learned how to search for records that were like 15 years old that had been met previously. They weren't still at the same company. They'd moved on, but no one had thought to look that far back. And I mean, I was going to the archives. I was looking at things that I was like, wow, I don't think anybody's ever looked at this. And I remember booking a meeting. It was actually, Experian was the biggest company that I think I brought on at the time. And it took me 2 years to, but I found the 2 or 3 people I needed to meet from there who'd previously engaged with us 15 years back. And then I reached out to them and said, oh, you're Experian now. Like, would it be worth having a conversation? Oh, yeah, I loved working with you guys back there. I don't know why we haven't done something sooner. And then, yeah, 2 years later, it all came to fruition. So, yeah, definitely CRM is going to be more and more important for a lot of these companies out there.
So, yeah, no, I agree. Long may that continue. Okay, so the next thing we were going to discuss is like, how do we do this? And this is a hot topic now more than ever. So again, in the olden days, we would very much be call, email. What are you seeing now that is really taking things to the next level?
Tell you what I'm not seeing, which is probably like, I think a lot of people tune into these things just for like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like we can talk about all the amazing stuff that people are doing, but actually quite often I go into businesses and I'm like, stop doing that thing because that's really bad, and then do more of this stuff, because I don't think you can take people from 0 to 100 in a day, two weeks, 3 months, whatever it is. It's a stepping stone process. Whenever people start with SourceWhale, they think, oh no, like we're going to have to do all these like multi-channel, multi-step processes, 10 touch points. It's like, no. If you're doing one call and one email right now, I'm going to come in and go, right, do 2 calls and 2 emails, right? And then it's as simple as that. Let's get you on the journey to doing more with less, but generating better results. And I think the key thing about we call it omni-channel, right? And it's just the fact that you should use all channels. Everyone says, oh, which one's the best one? I'm like, none of them are individually, because they all form part of a familiarization process that someone is going through with your business, your brand, you as a person. And there are only really 2 ways that you can really get hold of someone, and it's either phone or email. And it's the best way to do it is if you pick up the phone to them and they recognize your name for a great email you've sent, and they go, yeah, okay, I'll give you 5 seconds or whatever it is to then have a conversation.
So I've got a prospect of mine who I've been trying to chase for the last 3 months. I've called him several times, hasn't answered. I even LinkedIn slid into his DMs and said, mate, I'm actually in the area if you fancy a coffee, because I was kind of in the area. I really, really wanted to meet him. And nothing. And I was like, okay, we'll just move on. It's not meant to be. Lo and behold, he ended up in one of my newsletters that I sent out. Actually, I was advertising this webinar, and he replied instantly and said, I'm so sorry, Holly, let's meet up. And I had a meeting with one of his colleagues last week, and I've got a meeting with him on Friday. Like, that came out of nowhere. I was genuinely never expecting him to open that email, but he did, and it came of it. Now, we then had a call after to book in the meetings, and he said, so sorry I didn't reply to your LinkedIn message about the coffee, like, but I am still really interested. So I was like, do you know what, like, it has worked. I've been quite like laid back and casual about the whole thing, but we've had different things in different places, and it really does work. What I say to a lot of clients is, you need to think about where your candidates are, and like when they are there. So if I was on my way to work, I'm probably scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, I'm not checking my emails. But when I'm at work, I'm checking my emails. So when you're scheduling content or calls, trying to do stuff where people are there, because if I see an email from you at 3 o'clock, I'm more likely to reply to it than I am if it was coming in at 7 a.m. and I haven't even got up or I'm still on the way to work. So I think the omni-channel stuff is useful. My favorite thing, I love a voice note. As we were voice noting earlier on, if anybody does not answer the phone to me now, they get a 30-second voice note saying, sorry, you didn't answer my call, please call me back. And I think it makes such a difference. And also LinkedIn, you can send them as well, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, voice notes are a game changer. Can you use automation, all these other things that people want to talk about, to make the human more human?
Yeah.
And like, if your humans aren't putting the human touch on things, they're just doing hi, first name, insert company, standard template. Like, no offense, like automation can literally do that for you much faster than a human can. So like, the human has to be putting in the human aspect of what you're doing, because if they're not additive to that process anymore. So like, these are the things that we really need to be focusing on, getting into the process and removing the other stuff so we have more time to do it. Voice notes are a great way to do that because they're so quick. No one likes typing. I can just do it in 30 seconds. I'm very dyslexic, so my typing and skip spelling is tragic. So voice notes get a thumbs up for sure. They work really well.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know what I'd do without them. I don't know what I'd do without a voice note. Okay, so now I know you and I both feel quite passionately about this. Overall, I'm going to say this, and I hope you agree, we need to get all of our recruiters to pick up the phone more. Now, I know that sounds so ridiculous, but I see it constantly. So I was with a client a few weeks ago, and I rock up and I'm going, here's your contacts you haven't spoken to. And then I found this profile of this record, and there'd been a communication, and the client had said, we're just reviewing our PSL at the moment, I'll be in touch. And the consultant went, okay, speak soon, on email. And I was like, oh my God, mate. Like, and I then showed that to the owners. I was like, okay, fine, I get that. If this was on a phone call, that consultant would have said, when are you reviewing it? Are we involved?
Yeah.
Why are we not involved? When will you be reviewing this again? What can we do to get in there? And honestly, it blew my mind that that email communication was so blasé.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I so let's take it back to why recruiters don't want to get on the phone more. And I'm not saying everybody does, right? And I've heard all the excuses in the book. It's a generational thing. It's this, it's that. I don't agree. I think it's somewhere in between all of these parts. But a lot of the time people don't want to pick up the phone is because they don't have any connection to the list that they are trying to call through. And they are blind calling. They are struggling the day before to pull together just a coherent list of people that they can call the next day just so they don't get told off because they need to hit their dials.
Mhm.
And this is something that we need to try and get away from. This is where like building out your candidate client journeys can be really important. Say, well, as a business, I know our pickup rate on the phones is 20%, right? So I know that whenever you reach out to someone, I'm going to ask you to call that person 5 times because I'm playing the odds. If it's 20%, they're bound to pick up, right? So I make that a hard and fast rule. Anytime you reach out to someone, you call them 5 times before you give up, because if you don't, you're burning through my leads or the business's leads far quicker than we want to be, and reducing the quality of what we're doing in the market and the human aspect of what we're trying to achieve. So when you build these journeys, what it does is you'll notice that people have the connection to the people they're reaching out to, but also a reason to give them a call. So we always, this is just from the data we've seen through the platform, we will always call someone the next day after they've received an email. The reason we do that is twofold. One is because if you have new starters and they're maybe not as they're not as good on the phones as some of the people that were around for a while, they can sometimes default to sent you an email yesterday, did you see it? Now, I really don't like that, and I would say don't do that approach. But I'd rather they were trying to make the calls than not at all. So I want to remove the barrier to them actually feeling comfortable to make it. But the second part is that if they know that there is a journey going on and that this is the best performing way to do it, they have a reason to be like, okay, I need to pick up the phone because these are all the people I emailed yesterday, plus all the people I may have emailed 2 or 3 days ago, and it's stacking them all up. They feel much more engaged in picking up the phone because they want to complete that journey. Because once they know they get to the end of that journey, it's done. They're like, I've done everything I could to get hold of that person. And you notice the engagement of consultants when they're going through that is so much higher than just like blind call a load of people that you've pulled together the day before, may or may not be relevant. And I know some people are really good at putting together lists, but like you have to be a bit of a CRM wizard sometimes to get this stuff working properly.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think the thing that's really important is calling up the people who are really showing interest in stuff, like putting hot lists together and various other things to see these people are actually like interested. Now, what I always say to my guys is like, don't call them and say, I saw you open this email 10 times and let's speak. Like, that's probably not quite the right tone, but you can say like, I saw your email. What, like, did you see my email? What did you think of it? I'd love to have this conversation with you. Like, people are generally really open, and like, what I always think it does is it means that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about who you're going to call. It's just there. And so all of the top salespeople that I have ever remembered have always been on the phone. Now, obviously, we have a new member of our team called Chris, who used to work at Bullhorn, and prior to that, Cube 19. And he sold me Cube 19 for like 3 years. Now, part of the reason why he probably works here now is because I knew he was a good sales guy and he would not give up. And he would ring me constantly. Have you made that decision yet? There was a time when I had to say, no, we've gone for another product. And then we didn't speak, but we didn't need them for 2 years. But he kept that kind of check-in. And I really valued that. And it kind of, his name stuck out. And therefore, it was a really good fit for what we need and the business at the moment. But having those phone calls makes such a difference. Such a difference, and trying to get those people onto an actual in-person meeting is what we want, right?
Yeah, and if you can use, like, as you say, intent data, where we've got it in our platform where it's like this person's just opened this email, if they click this link or they've shared it like 4 times, you can see that through the number of opens. Like that should tell you pick up the phone immediately. And yeah, as you say, don't say, hey, I saw you open this email. Just give them a call like you normally would. Hey, I sent you an email yesterday, or whatever it may be. Just wanted to give a chat. Oh yeah, no, I'm just opening your email actually. Oh, what did you think? Okay, makes it a lot warmer as well and much more likely to react.
Exactly. I saw a LinkedIn post about a month ago now, and it was from a hiring manager who posted a job, and it was something on the lines of 76 recruiters had emailed him that morning and said, here's a candidate, like, I'd love to work this role for you. One recruiter called him. And I was like, kudos to that person who actually was different, picked up the phone. And that's what we need. Like, we found, yeah, we need an email campaign, but we also need to call them. We need to have that human to human touch. And I thought that was really interesting to kind of see where some of the market was transitioning to. But we will, I think more and more people are getting back on the phones, and that's what we want, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So talking of that, talking of logging calls and notes, what do you think should be happening from a CRM point of view to join all of this together?
Well, hoping like a utopian world, and I generally believe this to be true, and I think that the rest of the business does, is that hopefully at some point recruiters won't have to do like, let's be honest, recruiters didn't get into recruiting to go and write notes, be like go and update stuff, like add CVs and everything else to the CRM. And I think actually technology has really caught up with this in this respect. And I think there is a point in the very, very near future, like, I mean, maybe by the end of this year, where recruiters won't have to take notes. They won't have to do any of the admin related stuff. All they will do is be served up the calls, served up the meetings, personalize the emails, like just the human parts.
Yeah.
Everything else will be tracked and recorded, analyzed, tasks created, everything will be done for them. So they just can literally do the best parts of their job. And it's arguably the most important, the most enjoyable parts, but also the most important parts, because that's what we all got into it for. We love speaking to people, building relationships. So, yeah, the fact that it can sit on your meetings, it can sit on your actual phone calls, it can sit in your inbox, it can monitor what you're agreeing to and the conversations that are being had. It has business context, and it can then start to create your day-to-day organization and help you make sure you don't drop stuff, which is, I mean, I know it's our last point, but like it's one of the things that I find from most businesses, that they have this black hole of stuff that just goes missing, because they're like, oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the process is for following up. Oh, I don't know like how many notes are getting missed, or how many calls aren't being recorded, or whatever it may be, how many tasks aren't being done. The sort of black hole that exists around not necessarily monitoring, because I believe like you should trust your consultants, but actually knowing that stuff is getting done, because when it's not, that's literally potential revenue walking out the door. You talk about opportunity cost between investing in something that stops it and not. I think sometimes until you have that conversation with someone, they're like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about all these things that I don't really see, but I just kind of thought they weren't really that much of a problem.
That's exactly it. And like, when if you go onto the system and you literally just saying offer accept as a note, offer accepted, right? What does that mean? Were they happy with the offer? Did they actually push back because they wanted 10k more? Like, were they over the moon? What are their concerns?
Yeah.
Like, actually, from a learning and development point of view, to improve your business further, you need to have that. One of the things that I feel really passionately about at the moment is candidate experience. I'm seeing so many candidates who get interviewed, CVs out, nothing. Maybe 2026 is going to be the year of candidate experience, because there is so much that we can do to improve that. And I know a lot of people are like, we need to focus on BD at the moment, but actually it's all still about with the candidate, and we need to make sure that their process is thorough. We feed back to them, we make notes, and the more stuff that is going in from a transcribing meeting point of view into the system, it really, 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 really does help and cleans the data, improves what you've got going on, and just makes the whole thing a little bit easier for everybody. And like, this stuff this stuff is doable, and we need to support the next generation of recruiters and our current recruiters kind of understand what this means for them, right? And that will then be, we've saved you so much time. You now need to call these engaged candidates, because you can see these 1,500 people are really engaged with the salary survey you've sent them, or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think nurturing good candidate pools is critical, and it's candidates become your clients, right? And I think if you make, everyone's done it. I did recruit for 7 years, right? And I was sucked at getting back to candidates. I didn't give them feedback. Like, it was just because I was so busy on all the other stuff. This stuff just took a back seat. So this is where things like AI and automation can pick up a lot of the slack there and make those journeys far better. Albeit the human is still very relevant in that process. And once you really get your candidate nurturing down to a T, that very quickly becomes a growing business development pipeline, because people do have friends who are also line managers and people that want to hire. So yeah,
it's the way forward. Okay, so with all of that in mind, like, what's your advice? Do you advise like your the teams that you work with to have like structured day plans and stuff so they can focus on stuff, or is it literally like just you go into the app, you go into your CRM and see what there is? Like, how do you advise people to work at their best?
Day plans, 100%. I think old school day plans still work really well. You probably want it in a digital format, not just like on a headed piece of paper like I was used to. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'd have my book of CVs next to me that were printed out. Yeah, again, like, this is things that I think people can leverage pretty much now, right? Is that if you have tools, technologies in there, like a lot of people use call recording technology to be able to transcribe, summarize, and create summaries, like things like that can just help then organize everything you should be doing day to day, because you're reaching out to, let's say, 100, 200 people a week. You're probably going to have to follow up with those people between 3, 4, 5 times maybe. With those kind of numbers, we're talking between 500 and 1,000 pieces of activity that have to be organized and orchestrated over the next 2 weeks by a human being on top of the next week's work and the next week's work. You see how it suddenly compounds into something that's just like completely unmanageable. And to think we actually think people are doing these processes now, like, no wonder people are only doing like 1 follow-up or 2 follow-ups, because they just can't keep track of everything. So that's where it's really important to have something, probably more important than everything else we talked about, I think, to have something that means that nothing slips through the cracks and that everything can be actioned in the appropriate way, and it will help. It's the one that we just see it so often. You plug straight into a business and they go, wow, we're doing everything 100% now, and suddenly revenue increases. And I'm like, well, of course, because everyone's doing the process you've told them to do, and they're doing it 100% of the time. And if they're not, you can see it, and then you can improve it. So, yeah, I think we will be very close to getting like completely automated day plans, where it's just like every day recruiters are served what they should be doing, and then they just execute all day, every day, because
That's what we want. That's what we want. And that it seems really silly, and I sort of a bit childish, saying you've got to do this at this point. But often recruiters don't have a structure. They don't have meetings. They don't have board meetings to go to. They don't have deadlines. They just need to fill roles. So actually having that, I think, is so important. Okay, that was very interesting. 5 fantastic tips there. So Ben, before we wrap up, I've got one question for you. Out of everything that's kind of transformed from a tech point of view over the last 4 or 5 years, what do you think has been the most kind of game-changing product for you personally to make you more productive and more efficient?
So over the last 5 years, I knew this question was coming. I thought you were going to say like this year.
You can say
the
this
last
year. We can
5
say this
years,
year.
I mean, we use SourceWhale internally for our whole business development team. It's one of the reasons I believe we have one of the most incredible sales organizations, because we are monitoring all the data. We're constantly doing monthly stand-ups to see what can be improved, etc., etc. But if I had to pick one thing that's changed, is just actually having a fully integrated ecosystem so that everything connects together. So it's not just like you can start right from the beginning of the journey all the way through to like actually doing a deal, and it's all orchestrated in a similar system, whether it's SourceWhale plus your CRM. Like, that's often the way people will use it. But it's from all the way from like finding information, finding people, writing personalized outreach, having the calls, having the meetings, having everything transcribed. You can ask it to write your follow-up, so it's going to basically write the deal for you. You can even use sequences to bloody send contracts if you wanted to. But like, yeah, it's just having everything integrated, which I think going back 5 years, not everything, well, very little was actually integrated. And I think that's not just a SourceWhale thing. I think that's lots of platforms are now able to keep all the data in one place, which is, I mean, that's going to be the main thing for everybody next year. Can you leverage the data you've got in the best way possible?
Yeah, it's the way forward. Like, for me, on a personal level, like when I set up the business 2.5 years ago, like not that long ago, I would sit there and I'd be on calls and I would make notes in a notepad, and then they would leave the call and I wouldn't have a clue and about what I was supposed to be doing, and I was just hoping for the best. But for me, having meeting transcribers has absolutely changed everything. Like a few months ago, I'd forgotten something that had happened on one of the calls, and it was fantastic having be able to go back and seeing that there. And what I love again is having that reliance on that system. You can actually listen, you can have a call, you can pick up on things, and it becomes really engaging, doesn't it? Because you're not having to sit there and like, you're on the phone, you're kind of writing notes on a notepad, or post-it note that I was doing, like you're actually being there, you're being present, you're having that human touch, and then you've got that history, and then which then links back into the CRM, which is so useful. And I don't, if our note takers suddenly disappeared from the world, I think we'd all really struggle. And I expect that's going to be, we're going to sit here in 12 months, 18 months ago and go, do you remember before we had the next big thing, how did we all cope without it?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, look, we nailed that. It's 2:30. That was 30 minutes of exactly what we needed it to be. It was efficient, it was high energy, and we covered an awful lot. And if people want to know more about the platform or want to get in touch, what is the best way for them to do that?
Connect on LinkedIn or send me an email, ben@sourcewhale.com, or go onto the website. We're very accessible, as we should be in the recruitment industry. So yeah, any of the above.
And then I'm sure you'll end up going to a fantastic omni-channel campaign and make it in Ben and his team. We're going to make sure that they are engaging with you every step of the way, and they'll call you at least 5 times. Is that right?
I think it might be 5 or 6 times now, but yeah, I think certainly 5 times last time I checked. But
sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've all found that really, really valuable. And yeah, we would love to hear back from you about how you found the webinar, and if there's anything you're going to take away, put into your business. And we will both see you again very soon.
And if you'd like to have any more information from Ben or I, then all of the details to find us or contact us are in the description below.